Welcome to Legacy Cast, where we talk about your story, your way, and what are you doing to make sure that people know about you many generations from now. Welcome to the program, Legacy Cast listeners. This is your host, James Snow, coming to you from smoltery state of Texas here in the Legacy Cast bunker. And we're having a little bit cooler day today. We have some rain showers, which we're enjoying. It's kind of rare for the state of Texas getting some showers, but we'll take it when we get it. But we're coming to you with a guest with us today, Gabe Arnold, and we're going to be discussing with him, as we do with our program, what he's doing in his life and his world that is going to make a difference in society. It's making a difference, in other people and letting the generations from now know really what he cared about and what things he was doing to make a difference and to make other people better for having come in contact with him. So welcome to the program, Gabe.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, James. I'm glad to be here.
So what is it that, when you're thinking about a legacy and how you're building your legacy, what comes up to mind when you think about that?
For me, a big piece of it is always about entrepreneurship. I've over the years, over the last 20 years, been an entrepreneur and started many businesses and worked with a lot of folks and done a lot of different things on that front. And in my opinion, I truly believe that the world will become a better place through entrepreneurship, because as an entrepreneur, you have the freedom to create your own solutions and solve problems, and there's less red tape. There might be maybe not no red tape, but there's less red tape, and you get to, go after and solve the things that you believe can be solved.
Sure. And, that's a good way of putting that, because, especially so many of our listeners, are entrepreneurs or small business owners, a few maybe solopreneurs, but it's what are we doing, that's putting something out there into the world that's going to, hopefully solve a problem or, help people to have better lives and, be richer for it. And so in doing this, obviously, we should, I think, spend a little bit of time considering, what kind of a mark those things that we're doing is going to have, not only on our families, but, the people around us within our inner circle of influence, but then also the community and the states that we're in, the country that we're in, the world that we're in. Do you feel that that's something that people should actively consider when they're doing both their business and their personal life? Yeah,
to me, they're very tied together. I'll tell you a story as an example. I was talking to my stepdad yesterday, and he told me about how his I think it was his grandfather came over from Italy in the 30s and landed here, got through Ellis Island and spent like his last few dollars to take a train all the way to Cleveland. And when he got here, he had literally no money left and slept in a tree his first night in Ohio.
Wow.
So, and then from there, he found one of his other family members, somebody that had sponsored him, brought him over. And he started his journey of, being an entrepreneur by getting a job and, figuring out where he could work and then building businesses from there. And it's a long, very interesting story, but I'll kind of cut to the end and share, why I think this matters. When he passed away, he owned 2 city blocks in a nearby town of Wickliffe here. He had 5 bars. He had 10 different rental properties. He owned multiple companies, and his kids and brothers and sisters and great grandkids and everybody has benefited from him thinking long-term and really investing wisely. And I think that's the big difference that the entrepreneurship can make, because it does 2 things. One, you have to think long-term if you're going to be a real entrepreneur, in my opinion. You can't just try to ride the latest trend or do what's easy. You have to actually think long-term. And by doing that, you ideally do 2 things. You create, wealth and success for your family, which carries on for generations. But more importantly, if you model that type of mindset and you show how to work hard and plan ahead and solve problems, you will create those kind of people around you through family, through the team members, through your employees. And that's actually what changes the world. It's the mindset and the approach to life and building businesses and things like that I think can, this is 100 years later almost, and this guy's legacy lives on through his businesses and his family and everything that he taught everybody through what he did.
And something, especially that I see there's a lot of that kind of mindset that goes on in Europe, which is great. I don't think there's as much of that mindset here in the U.S., which is unfortunate. We live in such an instant gratification society that people are not, unfortunately, they're not thinking in those kinds of, in that type of a scope, that what they're doing today is going to have a ripple effect, 100, 200, 300 years from now. And it's something that, I personally am passionate about. And even why I started the podcast program is, just to talk to people that are thinking about those things, because it is such a huge issue and something that we need to bring back, and as being commonplace. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, and part of it I would agree is like societal, where we're kind of instant gratification, but it's also like context of, we're a couple 100-year-old country. We're not that old. So it's like, we haven't even thought through, some of that yet. So part of it's natural and part of it is definitely a cultural thing that definitely needs to change. I totally agree.
Yeah. True enough there. So how do you correlate your version of legacy thinking into your business? How do you put that into that?
To me, a lot of that's about systems and processes, because if I can create a system that my team members can follow independent of me, then that means they can grow independent of me and they can manage that area of the business, independently. And so that's the only way to really build an empire, build a legacy, is if you build models and processes that can run independently. And that's where I spend a ton of my time. But I also actively coach and support and encourage anybody on my team to pursue entrepreneurship in their own right too. If they want to start something on the side, or if ultimately they want to go on and start their own company, I'm actually completely for that, because I think it'll make them a better employee, when they're with me. And also ultimately they may find their niche or their focus where they can be stronger than just being a team member. They can lead their own thing. And again, it comes back to kind of that mindset of like thinking long-term of, let's not solve this problem once today. Let's build a model or a process that solves it over and over. And if we operate that way, then we start to free up time and resources where we can start to look forward to bigger problems, or we can start to look at and say, what is our business going to be like in 10 years as a starting point, which is a little ways out there? And then what is it going to look like in 100 years? So
Sure. So as the way you're kind of putting that, creating those systems and processes, how would you say from a CEO standpoint that maybe some things are that maybe even concern you or keep you up at night, as the saying goes? Are there a few things that pop to mind there?
For me, that's usually like a rotating list of things, or a moving target. Because if you solve, as an example, say you solve production or quality issues, and you shore up a department and it's all stable, then you have capacity for more sales and like it can grow more. So then I go over to sales and say, are we really at the max capacity that we could be in sales? And then I'll build that up until I get to a stressor, a stress point in production, and then I'll go back to production. So I'm usually focused in on one of those two main categories. And then inside of that, I'm always thinking about, are we really investing enough in our team? Are we really investing enough in people? Because if you invest in people, everything else will work out. Everything else is kind of details, in the sense of software will change. You can get new tools. Your products will change, but if you continually invest in your people, then you'll be stable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a particularly important factor that I look at, especially in what I do with business, because with the business consulting that I do on a financial level, looking at the employee is very big. Especially those key employees that are with your company that really you hope to not have anything happen to them, because it could be very very devastating for your business. If those key people are not, in their particular role, not able to fulfill their capacity, then that could be devastating to the company. So, I'm always thinking about it from that level. So I'm glad that you mentioned, the importance of, the employees and considering them. Do you believe that people? Do you believe people should build strategies for themselves on a personal life and a business life? Put planning into place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have no plan, you'll kind of float along and land somewhere, and you won't know why you got there. And I do think that if you're a CEO or business owner or entrepreneur, then those married together. You can't have a business growth plan that takes 80, 90 hours a week to implement for the next 6 months and not be aware of the impact that's going to have on your personal life and how you need to adjust. Neither can you constantly reinvest all your profits and not have that hurt you personally or affect you at some level. So yeah, I think it's really key to map out your strategic vision and plan for where you want to go and what you want to do. And you can start on either side really as an entrepreneur. I feel like you can start with what you want personally and then build businesses to make that work, or you can start with what your vision is for your business and then make sure that your personal life lines up with that too. Obviously, I guess thinking of what you want out of life is kind of overarching of both of those if you're an entrepreneur. But yeah, it's definitely key to plan, because you're not gonna make intentional decisions as well if you don't have some marker that you're going for.
That's true. So what do you think the most common reason is that entrepreneurs end up failing or perhaps just give up in the process?
I would say most people don't persist long enough and don't pivot as they go forward and as they grow. Because there's a friend of mine told me one time, he said, as an employee, you work and get paid, and you work and get paid, and you work and get paid, and on and on and on. As an entrepreneur, you work, and then you get paid.
Yeah.
And in some repeating cycles of that process, over time, it should get better. And, eventually, now I wake up and I've been, I got paid all night, I get something comes in, or like I get paid without sitting there making it happen. But that's 20 years down the road. And I don't think that people always come into it with a long-term mindset. And so they may have success early on and think that that's how it always goes. And then they can't replicate it because it was lucky. Or it takes longer than they think or realize to, persevere through all the things you have to learn and put together and do in order to be successful. So I think lack of persistence is the easiest way to say that's probably what people fail, most commonly from.
Yeah, and in my experience, that's been very, very true as well, because it's like you get that first year hurdle. If you can get past that, you have to get past the 3 to 5 year hurdle. And so many people they might do okay up to the first year, but they weren't really planning for the 3 to 5 year mark, and so end up maybe running out of assets or resources to be able to hit the 3 to 5 year mark, and just couldn't stick it out for that point.
Yeah. You definitely have to prepare that you're going to invest, and you have to prepare that you're going to have to work hard and not always be paid for your work a little bit at the beginning. So
That's true. 90% of entrepreneurs end up failing in their journey because they didn't plan enough, didn't plan correctly, and it's not for everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have the stomach for it.
Yeah, maybe be a little bit, a wee bit crazy, as they say.
I would agree.
So what are some of the specific roadblocks that you've discovered in your experience that you would warn people to watch out for?
I'll answer it another way. I've seen that most successful entrepreneurs started out in outbound sales and outside sales or cold calling or door-to-door sales or doing something where they faced a lot of rejection and they got used to that. So and I'd say that because where most people fail is they have no idea how to sell, and they try to sell and they give up.